The observation deck emptied slowly. Minho, Hyejin, Daehyun, and Eunji remained, watching the council chamber below as the last alien representatives filed out. Jiwon still stood on the central platform, a small figure in a massive space. "Should we go to her?" Hyejin asked. Minho shook his head. "Give her a moment. That took more out of her than she's showing." They were right. Jiwon's hands trembled slightly as she deactivated her wrist display. Her legs felt weak. Speaking those truths, carrying the weight of human history, transmitting all that emotion through the translation matrix, it had drained something essential from her. But they had one cycle before the vote. One more chance to make their case. And she knew it wouldn't be enough to just tell them about Earth. She would need to show them what Earth's children could become. The human delegation gathered in their assigned quarters, a section of the station modified for their biological needs, gravity set to Earth standard. Atmosphere composition matched to home. Even the lighting mimicked Seoul's warmth. That was incredible, Yoonji said, replaying her recordings. The resonance effect was off the charts. Half the council was literally trembling. "I've never seen anything like it." "It was dangerous," Daehyun countered. The security officer paced the room, unable to settle. "We made them feel things they're not prepared for. That makes us a threat." "We were always a threat," Minho said quietly. He sat at the desk analyzing data streams. Class 12 Death World species with advanced technology and strong emotions? We're everything the Council has spent millions of years evolving beyond. The question isn't whether we're dangerous. It's whether we're valuable enough to accept anyway. Jiwon sat by the viewport looking out at the stars. So many stars. So many worlds. And somewhere out there, barely visible, was Seoul, was Earth, was home. "They're going to vote against us," she said. "Most of them anyway. We scared them too badly. Then we leave," Hyejin said. "Go back to Earth, we tried." "No." Jiwon turned from the window. "We have one more chance. Tomorrow, when the Council reconvenes, I need to show them something different. Not just what Earth made us, but what we chose to become despite Earth." She explained her plan. The others listened, and slowly, understanding dawned on their faces. "That's risky," Minho said. "It's honest," Jiwon replied. "And that's what they need. Not more strength. Not more survival stories. They need to see our heart." The cycle passed slowly. Word spread through the station about what had happened in the council chamber. Species that had sent representatives whispered among themselves. Some were frightened. Others were fascinated. A few were angry at having their emotional equilibrium disturbed. Chancellor Vexthor spent the cycle reviewing records. Not just recent ones, he went back through archives millions of years old. Looking for something. Searching for a memory the council had long since filed away and forgotten. He found it in a database marked historical irrelevant. A record from the council's founding over 10 million cycles ago. Back when the founding species were younger, less evolved, still close to their own harsh beginnings. There was a debate recorded there. About whether civilizations needed challenge to thrive. About whether achieving paradise might be a form of death. The debate had been settled in favor of comfort, of safety, of eliminating all unnecessary struggle. And for 10 million cycles, the council had been stable, peaceful, unchanging. Vexthor read the last entry in that ancient debate, a warning from a species long since extinct who had disagreed with the final decision. A civilization without struggle is a garden without seasons. Nothing truly grows. Nothing truly lives. We predict that in time you will forget not just hardship, but also the joy that comes from overcoming it. The Chancellor's crystalline form flickered with something that might have been unease. When the council reconvened, the chamber was packed. Not just the official representatives, but observers from across the station. Word had spread. Everyone wanted to see what the human would say next. Jiwon walked to the platform again. This time she carried something, a small case containing items from Earth, physical objects, not holograms. "Thank you for this final opportunity," she began. "Yesterday I told you what Earth made us. Today I want to show you what we made ourselves." She opened the case. The first item she removed was a book. Old, worn pages yellowed with age. "This is poetry," she said. "Written by a human named Yuna 300 years ago. She was dying of a disease we couldn't yet cure. She had maybe 6 months to live. She spent them writing about beauty, about small moments, sunlight through leaves, rain on windows, her daughter's laughter. She could have been bitter. Instead, she chose gratitude. She set the book aside and pulled out a small carved figure, a child's toy, shaped like an animal. This was made by my great-grandfather during a war. He was a soldier, fighting in terrible conditions, cold, hungry, surrounded by death. He carved this for his daughter back home, something to remember him by in case he didn't survive. He made it from a piece of shrapnel, a fragment of a bomb that had tried to kill him. He turned something designed to destroy into something meant to comfort a child. Next came a small plant in a sealed container, green leaves, small white flowers. This is a sample from our lunar colony, she explained, one of the first plants grown on the moon. It took us 50 years of failures to figure out how to grow food in lunar soil. 50 years of dead plants and frustrated scientists, but we kept trying, because we knew future generations would need those skills. We were thinking not just of ourselves, but of children not yet born. She held each item up, explaining its significance. A piece of music composed during humanity's darkest war, a medical instrument designed to save lives in disaster zones, a child's drawing of stars made by a girl who would grow up to become a ship's captain. These objects have something in common, G1 said. They were all created in hardship, in darkness, in moments when humans could have given up. But instead, we chose creation. We chose hope. We chose to make tomorrow better than today. The council listened in silence. The trembling had not returned. Instead, there was something else. A stillness that felt like attention, like understanding beginning to take root. You fear us, G1 continued. I understand why. We're emotional. We're unpredictable. We come from a world that taught us violence as readily as it taught us cooperation. But here's what I need you to understand. We're also the species that looked at that harsh world and said, we'll make it beautiful anyway. She pulled out one final item. A simple photograph printed on actual paper. It showed Earth from space, the famous image taken by humanity's first deep space probe. This picture changed us, she said softly. When we first saw Earth from far away, saw how small it was, how fragile, how alone in the darkness, it changed how we thought about ourselves. We realized we weren't separate nations or tribes. We were all humans on one world together. She held the photograph up for the entire council to see. That perspective, that ability to see ourselves from outside, to recognize our shared vulnerability, that's what Earth ultimately taught us. Not just strength, not just survival, but connection, the understanding that we're all in this together. Commander Dresch stood. His massive form seemed less aggressive now, more contemplative. Human, he said slowly, you speak of connection, but your species has warred amongst itself for its entire history. How can you claim unity? We're not unified, G1 admitted. We still fight. We still disagree. We still hurt each other sometimes. But we're trying. Every generation we try harder. We build more bridges. We find more common ground. We haven't achieved perfection, Commander. We've achieved something better. The recognition that perfection is impossible, but improvement never stops. Whistlewind drifted forward. I have a question, Ambassador. A personal one, if you'll permit it. Of course, what does Earth mean to you? Not to humanity. To you specifically. In your heart. The chamber waited. This was the question that mattered. Not political answers. Not diplomatic speeches. Just truth. G1 closed her eyes for a moment. When she opened them, they glistened. Earth means I had a grandmother who taught me to plant seeds and wait patiently for them to grow. It means I had a brother who died reaching for knowledge in the deepest dark. It means standing on a hilltop at 17, crying because the sunrise was so beautiful it hurt. It means every scar, every lesson, every moment of joy and pain that made me who I am. Her voice cracked slightly. Earth means home. Not because it was easy, not because it was safe, but because it was ours, because it shaped us and we shaped it in return. Because every human carries a piece of it inside them, even those who've never set foot on its surface. We are Earth's children, and no matter how far we travel, we carry home with us. The silence that followed was profound. Then slowly, Chancellor Vexthor stood. The Council will now vote on humanity's petition for membership. All in favor? The chamber erupted in light as voting systems activated. Colors representing different votes, yes, no, abstain, flickered throughout the space. G1 watched, barely breathing. The votes came in slowly. Some species voted immediately. Others deliberated. The count remained close, swinging back and forth, and then, One vote changed everything. A slow ancient presence that had remained inactive for millennia stirred in the deepest part of the chamber. The trembling became violent. Alarms blared throughout the station. Emergency lights flickered on in harsh red waves. Council members rose from their seats, some in panic, others in anger. The crystalline walls sang with frequencies that made even human ears ache. Enough! Commander Dresch's voice boomed across the chaos. His massive form stood fully upright now, towering over most of the assembly. This is an attack! The human is using some kind of weapon against us. I'm using no weapon, Ji-won said calmly, though her heart pounded. I'm only speaking truth. Truth? The commander gestured at the shaking chamber. This is psychological warfare. You're manipulating our emotional processors through your translation matrix, forcing us to feel things we haven't felt in millions of years. This is violence disguised as diplomacy. Chancellor Vexthor raised one crystalline limb. The gesture brought silence, though the trembling continued. Commander, contain yourself. The readings show no hostile action from the human. What we're experiencing is unprecedented, but not an attack. Then what is it? Demanded a representative from the Krillix, their insectoid mandibles clicking in agitation. My species evolved beyond strong emotion 8 million cycles ago. Yet now I feel something like... They seemed unable to find words. Nostalgia, said a soft voice. Everyone turned. The speaker was a Venn collective entity called Whistlewind, one of the few members known for studying primitive cultures. What you're feeling is nostalgia. Longing for something you never had. Connection to struggle you never faced. The human's words carry weight because they're true in a way we've forgotten how to measure. That's absurd, snapped another counselor. We evolved beyond such base emotions for good reason. They cloud judgment. They lead to irrational decisions. They're evolutionary dead ends. Ji-won saw her opening. Are they? Because humanity is here. We reached the stars. We discovered faster than light travel. We built a civilization that spans our entire planet. And we did it while carrying those base emotions with us. She stepped forward, closer to the edge of the platform. The holographic display shifted behind her, now showing human achievements. Spacecraft, cities on multiple continents, the moment humans first left Earth's atmosphere. The first moon landing. The construction of massive space stations. We felt everything, she said. Fear when we first left our atmosphere. Wonder when we saw Earth from space. Grief when missions failed and astronauts died. Joy when we succeeded despite impossible odds. And those emotions didn't hold us back. They drove us forward. Emotion is inefficient, stated a representative from a species Ji-won didn't recognize, their form mostly mechanical. Pure logic achieves faster results, does it? Ji-won challenged. Your species has been part of this council for how long? Millions of years, according to our research. And in all that time, what have you achieved? You maintain stability. You preserve peace. You manage resources efficiently. These are good things. But when was the last time any of you reached for something impossible, just because you believed you could achieve it? The question hung in the air. No one answered. Ji-won continued. Humans landed on our moon with computers less powerful than the device on my wrist. We did it not because it was logical, but because we looked up at that light in our sky and refused to accept that we couldn't touch it. We felt wonder, and that wonder became ambition, and that ambition became achievement. The trembling changed. Instead of violent shaking, it became rhythmic, almost like breathing. Let me tell you about another human, Ji-won said. My brother, Tae-sung. He was a deep-sea researcher. He studied life in the darkest parts of our oceans, places where pressure should crush anything living, places where no light reaches. Most people thought he was crazy for wanting to go so deep. She pulled up images of Tae-sung in his research vessel, smiling at the camera, images of strange, beautiful creatures from Earth's deepest trenches. He died down there, Ji-won said quietly. Equipment failure. He had maybe 3 minutes before his oxygen ran out. Do you know what he did with those 3 minutes? He transmitted his final observations. He described the bioluminescent creatures he'd discovered. His last words were about how beautiful they were. Her voice remained steady, but everyone in the chamber felt the grief beneath her words. The translation matrix carried it like a physical weight. He could have spent those minutes in panic, in anger at the faulty equipment, in regret for the choices that led him there. Instead, he chose wonder. He chose to use his last moments sharing something beautiful with the world. That's what Earth taught us. That even in death, even in failure, we could choose what we became. Whistlewind drifted closer, their gaseous forms swirling with unusual patterns. I have studied 10,000 civilizations across 5 galaxies, they said. I have catalogued their art, their philosophy, their cultural achievements. And I tell you all gathered here, I have never encountered anything like this. The humans don't just survive hardship. They find meaning in it. They transform suffering into something beautiful. That's not an advantage, Commander Dresch argued, though his voice had lost some of its certainty. It's a coping mechanism. A way to justify their world's cruelty. Maybe, G1 agreed, but it's also what makes us valuable. You asked why you should accept humanity into this council. Here's why, because we remember something you've forgotten. We remember what it means to truly live, not just exist. She gestured at the assembly. How many of you know struggle? Real struggle? How many have looked at an impossible task and done it anyway? How many have lost everything and rebuilt from nothing? Silence. I thought so, Jiwan said. You've created paradise. Perfect worlds with perfect conditions. Unlimited resources. No disease. No natural disasters. No challenge. And in doing so, you've lost something essential. You've forgotten what drives intelligent beings to grow. We have peace, someone objected. We have harmony. We have eliminated suffering and stopped evolving, G1 shot back. Not physically, your genetics remain stable, but culturally, philosophically, spiritually. When was the last time one of your species created art that moved you to tears, wrote music that made you want to dance, built something not because you needed it, but because you needed to prove you could? The question struck like physical blows. Around the chamber, ancient beings who had long ago achieved their civilization's peaks began to feel something uncomfortable. Something like emptiness, like recognizing a hole in yourself you didn't know existed. Earth was harsh, G1 said. It was cruel. It killed billions of us over millions of years. But it also gave us something you can't find on a perfect world. Purpose. The drive to overcome. The refusal to accept limitations. The belief that tomorrow can be better if we make it so. She turned slowly, meeting as many eyes as she could. You don't need to accept humanity because we're perfect. We're not. We're messy and emotional and sometimes violent. Accept us because we remember how to want, how to dream, how to reach for the impossible and sometimes, against all logic, achieve it. The trembling in the chamber reached a crescendo. The holographic projector exploded in a shower of light, but instead of fading, the light coalesced above Jiwan's head. It formed an image of Earth, rotating slowly, blue and green and white, impossibly beautiful. No one had programmed this. No one was controlling it. The light was forming itself, shaped by the collective emotional resonance of 300 species all feeling something they couldn't name. Jiwan looked up at her homeworld hanging in the air above her. That's Earth, she said softly. That's home. And everything I am, everything humanity is, came from that harsh, beautiful, terrible, wonderful world. We carry it inside us wherever we go. And if you let us, we'll share that gift with you. The light pulsed once, bright enough to make everyone look away. When they looked back, the image had faded, but something remained. A feeling. A memory of something they'd never experienced but somehow recognized. Chancellor Vexthor's form flickered through a dozen colors. I call for immediate recess. The Council must deliberate on this matter. We will reconvene in one standard cycle to vote on humanity's petition. But everyone knew the real decision wouldn't be about political procedures or membership requirements. It would be about whether the galaxy was ready to remember what it meant to truly live. The chamber began to empty, species filing out in unusual silence. They carried with them something they hadn't brought in, the weight of human experience, transmitted through words and felt in their bones. Jiwan stood alone on the platform, looking at her homeworld hanging in the void beyond the viewport. She whispered too quietly for her translator to catch. We made it this far, Earth. Let's see if they're ready for the rest. The silence stretched. Jiwan could feel hundreds of alien eyes on her, minds processing what she had shared. Some understood. Many didn't. A few were beginning to feel something they couldn't name. Chancellor Vexthor's crystalline form shifted, light dancing across his surfaces. Ambassador, your world's history is certainly dramatic. But I must ask, if Earth was so hostile, surely your species developed advanced technology early. Energy shields to protect from storms? Climate control to moderate temperatures? Surely you didn't endure these conditions longer than necessary. Jiwan shook her head. We endured them for hundreds of thousands of years with nothing but our hands and our minds. We didn't develop electricity until very recently in our history. Before that, we survived through pure determination and creativity. That seems inefficient, commented a member of the Tal species, beings who had achieved spaceflight within 1,000 years of developing consciousness. Why suffer when you could innovate faster? Because we couldn't, Jiwan said simply. Resources were scarce. Knowledge took time to accumulate. We had to learn everything from scratch, and Earth punished every mistake. But that slow process taught us something valuable. Patience. Perseverance. The understanding that some problems can't be solved quickly, only persistently. She changed the holographic display again. Now it showed human art, cave paintings made by firelight, ancient sculptures, pyramids built without modern machinery, cathedrals that took generations to complete. While we struggled to survive, we also created beauty, she said. We painted on cave walls. We carved stone into shapes that pleased us. We built monuments that served no practical purpose except to prove we could. We made music with our voices and with instruments we crafted. We told stories around fires, passing down knowledge and dreams to our children. The images shifted rapidly now. Paintings from every era of human history. Sculptures, architecture, musical instruments from simple drums to complex orchestras. Earth tried to break us, Jiwan continued, but it never broke our spirit. In the darkest times when food was scarce and death was close, we still found reasons to sing, to dance, to create things that had no survival value except to remind us that life could be more than just surviving. A small being near the front of the chamber spoke up. Jiwan recognized them as a Pix, one of the few species that had also evolved under moderately difficult conditions. The human speaks truth about hardship creating resilience. But there is darkness in that story too. Violence, war. Did your species not turn on itself when resources grew scarce? Jiwan felt her chest tighten. This was the question she had been dreading. Yes, she admitted. We fought each other. Often. Humanity's history is written in blood as much as in art. We created weapons as sophisticated as our tools. We organized into tribes, nations, empires. We went to war over territory, resources, beliefs, sometimes over nothing more than pride. The mood in the chamber shifted. This was what many had expected. Confirmation that humans were violent, dangerous, unsuitable for the council. We killed each other in numbers you would find horrifying, Jiwan continued. Her voice was steady but heavy. We developed weapons that could destroy cities. Eventually, we created bombs that could end all life on our planet. We came very close to using them. There, Commander Dresch said triumphantly. You see? This species is exactly what we feared. Violent, destructive. They should be quarantined, not welcomed. But Jiwan wasn't finished. Yes, we were violent. We still are in many ways. But you're missing the rest of the story. In the midst of our worst wars, humans also showed incredible compassion. Soldiers who gave their rations to starving children, medics who treated wounded enemies, civilians who hid refugees in their homes at great personal risk. We fought, yes, but we also saved each other. The hollows changed again. Images of humans helping humans. Rescue workers digging through rubble. Doctors treating plague victims. Volunteers distributing food during famines. Strangers pulling strangers from floods. Earth taught us violence, she said, but it also taught us cooperation. Because no human survives alone. We needed each other. A single person couldn't hunt a mammoth or build a shelter or defend against predators. We had to work together. We had to trust each other. And that created something beautiful. Community, family, friendship, love. The trembling started again. This time it felt different, not alarming, but almost gentle, like a heartbeat. We learned to care for our weak, Jiwan said. Archaeological evidence shows humans with severe injuries who survived for years after, which means others fed them, protected them, kept them alive when they couldn't do it themselves. We didn't abandon our elderly when they could no longer work. We didn't kill our disabled. We cared for them because that's what humans do. A member of the Venn collective drifted closer, their gaseous form swirling with interest. This is illogical. From a pure survival standpoint, caring for non-productive members wastes resources. Maybe, Jiwan agreed. But humans aren't pure survival machines. We're more complicated than that. We attach value to things beyond utility. We love people who can't benefit us. We keep promises that cost us. We help strangers we'll never see again. Earth was harsh, but it didn't make us cruel. It made us compassionate because we knew how hard life could be. She paused, gathering her thoughts for what came next. Let me tell you about my grandmother, she said, her voice softer now. She lived through a war that destroyed her country. Lost her parents, her siblings, her first husband. Survived famine that reduced her to eating tree bark. Watched half her village die from disease. The chamber was completely silent. The translation matrix glowed brighter, carrying not just words but the emotion beneath them. She could have become bitter, Jiwan continued, angry at the world, hardened by loss. Instead, she spent her old age teaching children to read. She grew vegetables on her apartment balcony and gave most of them away to neighbors. She told me stories every night before bed, stories about heroes and hope, about people who did good things even when it was hard. Jiwan's voice cracked slightly. She died when I was 12. But her lessons stayed with me. That hardship doesn't have to destroy kindness. That suffering can teach compassion instead of cruelty. That earth was harsh, yes, but what we became in response to that harshness, that was our choice. The trembling intensified. Equipment throughout the chamber flickered and sparked. The holographic display pulsed with unusual brightness. Several species looked uncomfortable, even disturbed, as if they were feeling emotions they didn't recognize. From the observation deck, Minho leaned forward. It's accelerating, he muttered. The resonance effect. They're not just understanding her words intellectually. They're experiencing the emotions behind them. Species that haven't felt strong emotion in millennia are suddenly touching something primal. Yunji was still recording, but tears ran down her face. She's telling them what it means to be human, she whispered. Actually making them feel it. Hyejin gripped Daehyun's arm. Look at them. Half the council looks terrified. The other half looks awakened. Back in the chamber, Jiwan brought up one final image. Not of Earth, but of humans. Billions of faces from every continent, every era, every walk of life. Young and old. Healthy and sick. Joyful and sorrowful. All human. All carrying Earth inside them. This is what Earth made, she said. Not perfect beings. Not peaceful beings. But beings who know how to endure. Who know how to hope. Who know that tomorrow might be better than today, even when today is trying to kill you. We are Earth's children, shaped by its harshness, but not broken by it. The room trembled harder, and Jiwan knew the real test was just beginning. The trembling continued, subtle but persistent. Engineers in the observation galleries rushed to their consoles, checking systems. They found nothing wrong. The station's structure was sound. Every measurement showed normal operation. Yet the vibration remained, seeming to emanate from the council chamber itself. Jiwan ignored the disturbance. She had expected something like this, though she hadn't told the others. Minho had his theories about translation matrices and emotional resonance. She had simply known in her gut that some truths were too heavy to speak without consequence. You mock us with impossibilities. A new voice spoke. It came from a floating sphere of luminous gas, one of the Venn collective, beings who thought in quantum probabilities and found solid matter crude. Our simulations show 0.03% chance of tool-using intelligence emerging from Class 12 conditions. The energy cost of survival would prevent cognitive development. Your simulations are wrong, Jiwan said simply. Because I exist and so do 8 billion others like me. She changed the holographic display. Now it showed Earth's timeline, compressed into digestible chunks. Let me tell you how humanity learned to survive. The images shifted to early humans, primitive and vulnerable. No claws, no fangs. No armor plates or venom sacs. Just soft skin and clever hands. We were prey once, Jiwan explained. Everything on Earth was bigger, faster, stronger. We had no natural weapons, no special defenses. So we did something your simulations probably didn't account for. We made our own. The hollows showed stone tools. Simple at first, just rocks chipped into sharp edges. Then more complex, spear points, axe heads, knife blades. We learned to shape the world around us, she continued. We took stones and made them cut. We took wood and made it strike. We were weak, so we made ourselves strong through invention. Commander Dresch made a sound like grinding boulders. Tool use is common. Many species develop simple implements. This proves nothing. You're right, Jiwon agreed. So let me show you what else we did. The display changed again. Now it showed humans with fire, the flames bright against a dark cave. We learned to control energy itself, she said. Fire doesn't exist naturally in forms we could carry. So we made it. We learned to create it, feed it, direct it. We used it to cook food, making nutrients our bodies couldn't normally process. We used it to stay warm in climates that should have killed us. We used it to keep predators away in the night. The trembling in the chamber grew slightly stronger. Some council members shifted uncomfortably. The sensation was strange, like feeling someone else's memory. Jiwon pressed on. But Earth wasn't finished teaching us. It had harsher lessons. The hollows showed ice ages, massive glaciers covering continents, temperatures far below freezing, animals dying by the thousands. This should have ended us, she said quietly. Most species would have gone extinct. But humans refused. We hunted in the ice. We built shelters from animal bones and hide. We sewed clothing from furs. We learned to survive in cold that would kill most of you in this chamber within minutes. A soft murmur ran through the assembly. Species that had never known true hardship, who had evolved on worlds with stable climates and abundant resources, were beginning to understand something new. Then the ice retreated, Jiwon continued, and we followed it. We spread across the entire planet. Deserts where water was scarce, jungles where disease waited in every shadow, mountains where the air was thin, islands surrounded by endless ocean. We went everywhere. We adapted to everything. The hollows showed human civilizations rising. First small villages, then towns, then cities. We learned to farm, she said. We took wild grasses and turned them into wheat, rice, corn, staples that could feed millions. We took wild animals and domesticated them. Wolves became dogs, our companions and helpers. We turned prey animals into livestock. We bent nature to our will, not through force, but through patience and understanding. Chancellor Vexthor spoke, his voice carrying unusual interest. This is impressive persistence. But surely once you developed agriculture and civilization, your world became easier to manage. Jiwon laughed. It wasn't a happy sound. No, Chancellor. Earth had more lessons to teach. Floods that drowned entire regions. Droughts that turned farmland to dust. Plagues that killed millions. Earthquakes that toppled cities. Volcanic eruptions that blocked out the sun. The images became darker, showing human suffering and loss. We should have given up, she said. Any rational species would have. But humanity has never been entirely rational. We rebuilt. Every single time. Cities destroyed by earthquakes, we built them again stronger. Populations devastated by disease, we learned medicine, studied the tiny organisms killing us, found ways to fight back. Floods washed away our fields. We built dams, irrigation systems, better drainage. The vibration in the chamber was stronger now. Equipment began to flicker. The lights dimmed and brightened in rhythm with Jiwon's words. Earth taught us that nothing is permanent, she said. That safety is an illusion. That comfort is temporary. So we learned to find meaning not in having an easy life, but in overcoming a hard one. From the observation deck, Hyejin watched with wide eyes. The pilot had flown through ion storms and navigated asteroid fields, but she had never seen anything like this. The entire council chamber seemed to pulse with energy, responding to Jiwon's words in ways that shouldn't be possible. Beside her, Daehyun gripped the railing. The security officer's training told him this was dangerous, that they should evacuate. But his instincts, those deep human instincts forged on Earth, told him this was necessary. Yoonji, the cultural liaison, was recording everything. Her hand shook slightly as she held the device. "They're feeling it," she whispered, actually feeling what she's describing. The translation matrix is doing more than converting language. It's transmitting. Something else. Minho nodded slowly. Emotion, context, the weight of experience. These species, most of them evolved on garden worlds. They've never known real struggle. Their ancestors had easy lives, so they did too. But now they're touching something primal, something they forgot or never knew. Back in the chamber, Jiwon brought up her final image for this part of the story. Earth seen from space, blue and green and white, beautiful and terrible. This is what made us, she said. Every challenge, every disaster, every impossible situation. We carry Earth in our bones, in our DNA. In our souls, if you believe in such things. We are survivors because survival was never guaranteed. We are innovators because innovation was the price of existence. The trembling peaked and then suddenly stopped. The chamber fell silent. The stillness was almost more unsettling than the vibration had been. So when you ask what Earth is, Jiwon said into that silence, understand that you're asking what shaped humanity. And the answer is, Everything that tried to kill us and failed. The hall was enormous. Jiwon had seen pictures, had studied the architecture, had prepared herself for this moment. But standing here, looking up at the curved ceiling that stretched so high it disappeared into artificial clouds, she felt impossibly small. 300 species filled the assembly chamber. Some sat in chairs designed for bodies like hers. Others floated in containment fields, their forms made of gas or light. A few towered over everyone else, their heads brushing the lower cloud layer. The air smelled strange, a mixture of chemicals her brain couldn't identify, filtered through her helmet's life support system. Jiwon walked forward. Her boots clicked against the crystal floor, each step echoing through the massive space. Behind her, she knew Minho and the others were watching from the observation deck. They had argued about who should speak today. She had won that argument, though winning felt like a generous word for it. The path to the central platform seemed to stretch forever. Alien eyes watched her from every direction. Some looked curious, most looked bored, a few looked hostile. When she reached the platform, a voice boomed through the chamber. It came from everywhere and nowhere at once. The translation device in her helmet converted the sounds into Korean, though she could hear the original tones underneath, clicks and whistles and something that sounded like grinding metal. "The assembly recognizes the representative from Earth," the voice said. "You may present your species' petition for council membership." Jiwon looked up. The High Chancellor sat in the highest seat, a being made of crystal formations that caught and reflected light in dizzying patterns. She had read that Chancellor Vexthor was over 10,000 years old. His species measured time in ways humans couldn't quite grasp. "Thank you, Chancellor," Jiwon said. Her voice sounded small compared to the booming announcement, but her translator amplified it. "I am Ambassador Jiwon, speaking on behalf of humanity and our homeworld, Earth." A ripple of sound moved through the chamber. It might have been laughter. It might have been something else entirely. Chancellor Vexthor leaned forward. The light, reflecting off his crystalline body, created rainbow patterns on the floor below. "Before we proceed with what will certainly be a rejection of your petition, I must ask a preliminary question." Jiwon's stomach tightened. This wasn't part of the script they had prepared. "We have searched our archives," the Chancellor continued. "Records spanning 10 million of your years. We have cataloged every world in 12 galaxies. Yet we find no mention of this Earth in any database. No ancient civilization has recorded its existence. No trading route passes near it. So tell us, human, what is Earth?" The chamber fell silent. Jiwon could hear her own heartbeat in her ears. She thought about lying, about giving them some technical answer, coordinates and planetary classifications and atmospheric composition. They would understand that language. It would be safe. Instead, she told the truth. "Home," she said. The word hung in the air. Something strange happened. The translator devices throughout the chamber flickered. A soft glow pulsed through the crystalline walls. Several species shifted in their seats, uncomfortable for reasons they couldn't name. Jiwon pressed forward. "Earth is home. It's the place where humanity was born, where we learned to walk, to build, to dream. It's the world that made us what we are." "That tells us nothing," a harsh voice interrupted. Jiwon looked to her right. A massive creature stood. Commander Dresch. She recognized him from the briefing files. His species, the Orthrians, were silicon-based warriors who viewed most other races as weak. "Provide coordinates, classification, useful data, not sentiment." "I can provide those things," Jiwon said carefully. "But they won't answer your question. You asked what Earth is, not where it is. And the answer to what it is. That requires understanding what it made us." Chancellor Vexthor tilted his head. Light scattered across the chamber in new patterns. "An interesting distinction. Very well, human. Tell us what this world made you." Jiwon took a breath. She thought about her grandmother's hands, scarred from decades of farm work. About her brother's last transmission from the bottom of the ocean. About standing on a mountain peak at 17 crying because the view was so beautiful it hurt. "Earth is a Class 12 hazard world," she began. The chamber erupted in noise. Dozens of species spoke at once, their voices overlapping into chaos. The translation matrix struggled to keep up. Impossible! Commander Dresch's voice cut through the noise. Nothing sentient evolves on Class 12 worlds. The hazard rating exists only for documentation purposes. No civilization has ever emerged from such extreme conditions. Yet here I stand, G1 said quietly. The translator carried her words to every corner of the chamber, and slowly, the noise died down. Humanity evolved on a world that tried to kill us every single day. Storms that tear cities apart. Ground that shakes and splits open. Mountains that explode with liquid rock. Temperatures that freeze blood and boil water. Predators with claws like knives and jaws that crush bone. She activated her wrist display. The holographic projector built into the platform hummed to life. Images of Earth appeared above her head. A hurricane seen from space, its spiral arms covering half an ocean. An earthquake splitting a road in two. A volcanic eruption painting the sky red. "This is home," she said. "This is where we come from." More images appeared. Humans crossing frozen wastelands. Humans diving into deep oceans. Humans climbing mountains where the air was too thin to breathe. Humans building cities in deserts, in jungles, in places where nothing should survive. The chamber was silent now, but something else was happening. Jiwan felt it before she understood it, a tremor in the floor beneath her feet. Subtle at first, barely noticeable. Then growing stronger, the crystalline walls began to vibrate. A low frequency that human ears could barely detect, but that made the alien architecture sing with sympathetic resonance. "What is this?" someone called out. "A weapon?" "No weapon," Jiwan said. "Just truth. Earth made us survivors. It made us adaptable. It made us strong in ways that matter." The trembling grew stronger. Equipment flickered. The holographic display pulsed brighter than normal. And Jiwan smiled, because she was just getting started.